Good evening, everyone. This is Jen Haas, Chair of the Conservation Commission. Tonight is the Conservation Commission meeting acting as the Inland Wetlands Agency. It's Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021. So tonight we have commission members, myself, Jen Haas, Chairman, Luke Thomas, the Vice Chair, Charlie Rowan, Secretary, Nelson North, Dabney Bowen, Terry Alessi, Brian McCann, and let's see, 1, 2, 3. That's 7, right?
Yeah.
So we don't need to appoint an alternate. Okay. Roman numeral 3, bills and communications. Approval of meeting minutes of May 5th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Why don't we all raise our hand too so we can see? And Roman numeral 3B, approval of recording secretary's bill of May 5th, 2021. Motion to approve.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Roman numeral 4, inland wetlands deliberative session. Roman numeral 4A, old business. IWPA 2020-21-15, Woodbridge Construction, 630-640 Hoydens Lane, Assessor's Map 67, Parcel 10B and 10. Construction of a new dwelling within a regulated area. Last day for public hearing or decision is July 9th, 2021. Staff recommends approval with conditions. What do we have here on that? Anyone?
Mr. Mowerman, Ilya Mowerman is here if he wants to give us a little information about that.
Sure. Hi, Ilya here.
Hi.
If you don't mind, I'd rather Megan, who's here, who's the engineer on the project, she'll be better versed in explaining anything.
Good evening.
Of course. Thank you.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
You're-
great. Thank you. Always good to check. My name is Megan Miller. I'm with B&B Engineering. I'm a project engineer there. And as Ilya has said, we are presenting for the project of 630-640 Hoydens Lane. The project was previously approved and construction started on a 2-development residential home back in 2009, and then construction ended. So we have some additional existing structures on site, including installed septic systems and building foundations. We are proposing a new single dwelling residence, the upper lot. We are trying to minimize as much disturbance to the lot as possible, and we'll be utilizing some of the existing structures on, such as the septic system for drainage and for the existing septic. We are proposing site stormwater system that will be collecting stormwater from the building and from the majority of the driveway. And the total clearing on the site will be about just a little over 110 square feet. The water, the upland review area to be disturbed is 16,540 square feet. We did have some comments from staff, which included reflagging in the existing wetlands because they were originally flagged for the last submission in 2010. Since it's been over 5 years, they recommended that we confirm the wetland flags. We did reach out to William Kenney to go out to the site and flag. He did flag them. I have a preliminary sketch. Unfortunately, it wasn't done before the materials could be submitted to you, but that is an active process, and he is working on the report, so we'll have that. Available for any questions.
Jen, you're muted.
Does anyone
I
have
have a
any
question.
questions? Go
I have
ahead.
a question. It was originally approved in the CWC. Is the original permit still in effect, or is this for a brand new permit?
This is for a brand new permit. It's going to be a new single dwelling located in approximately the same location as the existing upper foundation. But it's a new building footprint located in the same area, really. And we're going to be utilizing the same driveway that was previously put in. So we're trying to, again, really minimize any sort of disturbance on the lot by utilizing what's there.
Anyone else have questions?
So is that driveway not part of the permit then?
There is some additional grading. It'll be in the same location, just some grading to, it wasn't finally finished from the last permit. So we're proposing a little bit additional drainage structures on the side to collect that water from that driveway, a portion of the driveway, I should say, and let everything else go off-site as it is today.
Will the driveway continue to be a gravel driveway?
Yes, yes, it will continue to be a gravel driveway. That's what the clients would like. They like that that aesthetic.
So the staff needs to get the Bill Kenney flagged wetlands plan before.
Well-
Go ahead.
So the question I have for Ms. Miller and or Bill Kenney, because I see he is on this evening as well, has there been any changes to the wetlands that were flagged in 1998?
I'll let Bill answer that if he would like. We haven't been able to locate them in the field, but from the draft that he did send, it's in the same location. It looks like it's actually a little less in the area that we're building the house. But there's no proposed work will be located within the wetland area. And actually there is a conservation easement that is delineated on site with a wooden rail fence, and no disturbance will go past that area.
So Bill, are
Mr.
you
Kenney.
there?
Yes, good evening. Hi, this is Bill Kenney. I was not prepared for this, but I could, I wasn't planning to testify with regard to this. If you give me a minute, I could check my files to refresh my memory about this.
Okay. All right. So from staff perspective for the commission, what we were looking for was just confirmation. This was flagged in 1998 by Roy Shook. Typically, what the standard is after 5 years, the delineation needs to be re-verified or reconfirmed to make sure that there hasn't been any significant changes to the wetlands or watercourses that might be on a particular project site. What we were looking for was for the applicant to verify that the wetlands that are shown on the application plans that are before you is still consistent. From what I've heard so far tonight, it sounds like they are or might be even less than what is shown on the plan. Be that as it may, I think a couple of the important components of the project that have been presented this evening is that there are no direct wetland impacts associated with the project. The wetland itself, which is located in the southern part of the site, south of the existing gravel driveway, is within a conservation easement, as identified earlier, that has a split rail fence that demarcates that conservation easement. They are proposing to use some of the site features, such as the easternmost septic system for actual additional recharge properties for stormwater. And that is to maintain the hydrologic connectivity of the groundwater that feeds and supports the wetlands to the south. Obviously our recommendation was to conditionally approve this application. We didn't, based on our findings from staff level, we didn't find that the activities as proposed would have any significant adverse impact to those wetlands, and we conditioned our draft approval based on 5 specific conditions. Those were: 1, to submit an updated soil science report, which Mr. Kenney will be doing. There was some discrepancy in the existing contours as depicted on the plan, specifically in the wetland area. We've asked them to correct the labeling on those plans. Also, we asked the engineer to verify the cuts and fills on this particular project, and it appears that based on the cubic yardage of fill, it exceeds some of the requirements of the planning and zoning, and will require a special permit for the fill associated with this project. And lastly, number 4 was submit a final as-built plan, which is typical of our conditions for our permits, as well as allowing this permit to be for a duration of 5 years.
Okay.
I-
Is that split rail fence in good shape? I mean, they'll know that that's what that fence is demarcating as the conservation easement?
It is very visible from site. We've seen
Okay.
it. The builder knows where it is. And to talk about the special conditions, we did reach out to planning and zoning. They have a digital copy of our plan, so they were going to talk to the engineer. So we have no issues with working with the town on that issue. And the contours in the wetland area, we will certainly, no problem fixing that of approval.
I did have a chance to just look at my files real quick, and yeah, I think the wetland is substantially in the same location as previously flagged. It might be a little bit narrower, and I think 2 critical things are it's still continues to fall within that conservation easement as was stated, and we went through and checked the 2 house sites which had been disturbed since the last approval for house development, and we didn't find any new areas. Sometimes when they go in and they dig a foundation, they might leave a hole, and next thing you know, a wetland's formed in a depression that they've excavated. We didn't find any new areas like that in the development portion of the site.
Questions, anyone?
I don't know if it's really is the form for it, but how is the conservation easement written, since we've had some interesting discussions about them in the last few meetings?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information right in
I don't
front
have
of
it.
me.
It wasn't done that long ago, so it was probably fairly decent
Right.
as opposed to the older ones.
Right.
Yeah, just for information, both of these lots, 630 Hoyden and 640 Hoyden, received certificate of wetland compliances in 2016, so they're only about 5 years old.
Okay. Anyone else's questions? Everyone? Okay. Are we ready to vote? Someone want to propose a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions as recommended by staff.
Discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
No.
Opposed? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
thank you.
Night.
Okay, Roman numeral 4A number 2. IWPA 2020-21-16 Kim, 100 Mine Hill Road, Assessor's Map 174, Parcel 13A, construction of a new dwelling, accessory structure, and subsurface sewage disposal system within a regulated area. Staff recommends approval with conditions. Who's here on that? Mr. Kenney?
Could you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Who is
Yeah,
that?
Mike Paterla is here from the Huntington Company
Oh,
on this.
hi, Mike. Sorry.
I'm not sure if I'm on. If I'm on, yes.
You're good.
Yeah.
We can
Okay.
hear you.
Yep. Okay, thank you. My name is Mike Paterla. I'm a licensed land surveyor, licensed professional engineer. I'm with the Huntington Company here in Fairfield. This particular lot is, as you know, is 100 Mine Hill Road. It was, it's on the east side of the road, just north of Greenfield Hill Road. It's the second lot up, actually. The lot is vacant, and it was a recent first cut of a piece of property. And the adjacent property, as you look at the map to the left, there's a big white house, and that's 166 Mine Hill Road. So this piece of property was part of a 4+ acre piece of property, and we cut this acre piece out. Could only guess a couple of years back, and we're here to get a wetlands permit from your department. It's 2-acre zone. The lot conforms to all the requirements of the AAA zone, which it's in. Again, we had Bill Kenney come out to take a look at it, and he flagged the wetlands in the field. We sent a survey crew out, located it, and what you see on the map is Bill Kenney's wetlands flags. We found, again, it's 2 acres in size. There were just under 3,000 square feet of wetlands, 0.07 of an acre. So under 3,000 square feet of wetlands on the property. And we don't intend to fill any wetlands at all with this project. We're going to build a single family house, an accessory structure, septic system for both buildings. And we also have an underground stormwater system, and also two rain gardens on the downside just before the wetland. This was reviewed by the town, by your staff, conservation staff, and we had a punch list, and it's our opinion, we provided the outstanding items. Also, there was a review by Laura Pooley of the engineering department, and again, I believe we satisfied what she had to say. Again, it's vacant. It was recently cut out from the piece to our left, and it conforms to all the AAA. So, questions?
Bill, was there anything in the staff comments that you had a problem with?
No, we had none at all.
Okay.
There's a
I'd like to ask.
comment
Yeah.
that says verify zoning compliance of accessory structure. Has that been done, or will that be done?
This will be reviewed by zoning. Yeah, they have, I don't know how recent it was, but it's fairly new in the AAA zone that allows now accessory structures. It wasn't before. It wasn't before, but I'm going to guess in the last, probably just the last year, they accepted them.
Okay.
Does staff want to say anything?
Yeah, the only one comment, or at least question I have right now for the applicant would be, can you describe whether test pit information was gathered on the site to determine the groundwater elevation at the proposed rain garden locations, as well as the Coltech units? Is there any information that you can provide this evening related to that?
Yes, on the plan on the left side is a log of my soil testing that I did in February 2015. I did 2 percolation tests, and they were witnessed also by the health department. It was Amy Lehaney from the health department, from the Fairfield Health Department. And again, the log is on the left side of the map that's in front of you or in your file.
And so,
I'd like to-
just a follow-up question on that. So based on that data, what is your separation distance from the rain garden bottom down to the active groundwater table?
It's greater than the required 1 foot.
Okay.
Anyone have questions? I did want to ask staff about are we going to have, what's your feeling on how we're going to show where the wetland soil is? Are we going to have stones or split rail, or what? How are we going to do that? It doesn't say in the conditions.
Well, there's obviously the two options, and that condition can be added to the specific conditions as to whether a split rail fence to demarcate the wetland boundary and or the use of stones. Both of them are adequate to provide that demarcation.
All right. Well, I'll leave it to you unless anyone has any strong feelings about that.
If I could just add, lately, your commission has been recommending the wooden split rail fence, and either way you go, naturally would have no objection. But so far, the norm has been a split rail fence.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else, or are we ready to vote? Okay. We have a motion.
I'll move. We accept with conditions.
And the added condition too.
Are we adding a condition? I don't think so. Were we?
Oh,
I think
The
split
staff
rail
had
fence.
conditions.
It's already in there as a condition. It's just not
Yeah.
specified what the demarcation can be.
Okay.
So if you want it specified, we can do it, or it's up to you.
I don't think we need it. Does anyone think we need it? So the conditions are as they are in the motion. And we had a second from Jerry, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, new business. Request for release of performance bond. Staff recommends approval by general consent of the following performance bond releases due to satisfactory completion or partial completion of permit requirements. Emergency IWP 2019-20-04, Donovan, 19 Westbrook Place, bank stabilization within a regulated area. Request of Ms. Donovan for a final release of $3,000 of the original $19,800. Final bond release was contingent upon plant survivability and boulder stability. Staff recommends final release of $3,000. Sarah, or anyone?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute.
Sure, yep.
Yeah, so this was one of those emergency ones from that September 2018 storm where the retaining wall along the Rooster River just got washed out. And so they went through, they had an engineered plan for the bank stabilization. We released the majority of it last year with the condition that the plants needed to survive another growing season. I went out there, everything looked like it was holding up fantastically. And and I think it's ready for bond release.
Questions, anyone? Okay, you have a motion?
Motion approved. Release of the bond.
Second for Brian. All those in favor, discussion? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Someone want to say something? No. Okay. All right. We did it. Thank you. All right. I do want to say, I believe Amanda's joined us. So Amanda, hello, Amanda. Mertens Campbell.
Oh, yes.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I'm on. Thank you.
Hi. Okay. Roman numeral 5, status applications, previous, I'm sorry. New business B2, monthly wetland business update for the agency. A lot of pools.
Yeah.
Matt, did you want to talk about anything, or Sarah, violations?
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I know the commission wanted an update from staff related to violations that have been pending or listed on the agenda. So I'm ready to do that this evening. So I would like to walk through those. So both Sarah and I and Megan have gone through the different various files to research some of the violations that date back to even previous to your former conservation director. And so we wanted to figure out where some of these violations stand to date. So the first one I'd like to start with that's listed on your violations is IWP 8322, formerly the Clanchit project or property. We don't have very much information in the file for this violation. The permit number dates back to 1983. Based on our review of the information in the file, which is limited, we don't know what the violation is currently. And at this point in time, we believe that violation would be more than 10 years old as well. And that was also talking with the former conservation director. So our staff recommendation, since there isn't a trail of notes and information related to this specific violation, would be to remove it at this point in time, since we don't have any factual information to go by on the violation, and because it is what we believe is more than 10 years old. Number 2, formerly Taft School, which was the 926 Hulls Farm Road pond dredging and filling of watercourse. So this violation began in 2012 under the previous owner of the site, which was the Taft School. We went through that particular file, looked at the documentation, the notes, as well as the photos. That violation that was not written up formally as a violation, but there's notes in the file, is related to the actual pond being in service at that time. And as we know, that pond no longer exists. The dam unfortunately failed, and the conditions out there are such that we don't believe that the violation that was identified likely exists at this point. And being that it is from 2012 without any official violation notices or documentation provided to that former property owner, we don't believe that this violation should continue to stand on the list at this point. Again, the proper protocols should have been followed at that time back in 2012, and it doesn't appear as though the documentation as such was followed. So at this point in time, we would recommend dropping that violation from our list. Staff recommends that. 4900 Congress Street. We have an update on this particular project. So there was an existing pipe, or a pipe that was placed without a permit through a water course. That pipe has been removed. The open channel has been restored. Restoration plantings were installed in April of 2020. We are still waiting for some compliance information from the violator, specifically the planting list, the final planting list, the final as-built plan, and obviously we as a staff need to do a final compliance inspection on that project. But based on our previous inspections, we believe it's about 90% complete. Obviously, there's a few outstanding items that we need to say that it is compliant, and then we can then remove that from the list. 184 Tuller Road, which is the Landino owner, as it's listed on the agenda. This was a project where the homeowner installed infiltrators in the wetland to help solve high seasonal groundwater table issue. So what happened there was that both Brian at the time and Annette had met with the homeowners back in July of 2020. Based on their conversations with those homeowners, those infiltrators that were placed within the wetland and any of the associated grading associated with those infiltrators was removed from the wetland, and the wetland was reseeded. We will be doing a follow-up inspection to make sure that everything is still compliant and that the area is stable, etc. So that will be done probably next week, as a matter of fact. 37 Blueberry Lane, Holbrook, Wetland and Fill. This was a project that Annette had visited in September of 2020. We've reviewed her field notes. At this time, no action has been taken by the violator, so we will be following up with that individual. There was some notes in there that requested some restoration plans. To our knowledge and based on our review of the file, those have not been submitted, so we will be reaching out to that violator to determine the next course of action. 172 John Street. This was a project where the homeowners went in and pulled out invasive shrub species from within the wetland without a permit. We will be reaching out to the homeowners to find out where they are with the status. They were supposed to do some native plantings. We have not been provided a plan as of yet, and so we'll be determining the next steps very shortly. 84 Homestead Lane. We will be reaching out to this violator to verify the trees that were proposed to be planted as part of the restoration have actually been completed, and we will do a final inspection of that. So that will be done probably in the next week. 1080 Reading Road. This is a project that had a show cause hearing. There is ongoing restoration as we speak on the site. The plantings are being installed. The bond is in place still and remains in place. We are awaiting additional property documents from the violators' representatives, and we'll be following up with Mr. Kenney on that next week. 205 Nonapog Road. This is a site that I have been to on 2 site visits already. The plantings have been installed in accordance with the approved plan. The site is stable. Deer fence has been installed around the plantings. Project, like I said, is compliant with the approved restoration plan. The bond is still in place for the plant survival. I would recommend at this point removing this particular violation off the list because they are compliant with the restoration goal. 2361 Hillside Road. This is the Kadrava property. A site inspection has been completed. We've provided these folks were a young couple that I guess didn't realize, the wetland regulations and where their wetlands were. They had their wetlands flagged after Annette had taken a visit to the site. Myself and Sarah made a second visit probably about a month ago to give some clarification as to what the violations were on the site and what remedial measures they should take. They had dumped some debris. They had taken some trees down in an upland area and had pushed a few of the trunks as well as the root wads into the wetland. We asked them to not to dump organic debris such as that in the wetlands without a permit, and we've asked them to remove that. They also had an existing dirt road that was adjacent to a flagged wetland that we felt had opportunities to erode and provide and allow sediment-laden water to enter the wetland. We've asked them to install straw wattles along that driveway as a preventative measure. They also had a few trees that were heavily choked by Oriental bittersweet, and the trees look like they actually had succumbed to the vines. We had asked them or suggested that they actually remove those because they were a safety hazard on the particular property. They are also developing a master plan for their property. They are looking to obtain or apply for agricultural status on that property, which typically takes a year. And so we said, you know, although there's certain agricultural exemptions and what you can do on your property, the Conservation Department and Conservation Commission should receive a master plan that details exactly what the intentions are for the agricultural operations on this property. They are developing that currently. So that takes care of number 10. So that will stay on our list until we've gotten a master plan in front of us. Number 11, 1118 Cross Highway, Patterson Club, Inc. The restoration work has been completed. A final site walk is yet to be completed by Conservation Department, but that will be done so in the next week or so. An as-built will then be submitted to the Conservation for compliance review. So that one, again, is about probably 95% complete. And eventually, once we have the as-built and our final inspection, we can remove that from the list. 816 Sturgis Road. This is a clear cutting of a wetland area, drainage swale. There's been 2 meetings on site with staff and the applicant, as well as their attorney and consultants. They are in the process of preparing plans, and they will be submitting an actual wetlands permit for review to this commission. So we will be following up in the near future with that violator if we don't see an application come before us in the next month or so. And that takes care of the 12 violations. So we are looking to remove at least 2 from the list, and other ones will also start to fall off the list as we receive our final compliance from these various individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions? Except, how do you remove them? Do you need us to do anything, or you just?
If they're compliant and staff acknowledges that they're compliant, I believe we can just remove them from the list.
Okay. I would agree with that. Anyone have anything to say? All right. Thank you, Matt. That's great.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay. Roman numeral 5. Applications previously filed. Number 1, continued from October 7th, 2020, November 4th, 2020, December 2nd, 2020, January 6th, 2021, February 3rd, 2021, March 3rd, 2021, and April 7th, 2021. Show cause violation hearing, cease and desist, correct order, 1081 Reading Road, Abby M. Taylor, trustee, assessor's map 221, parcel 29, channelization of stream course and filling of wetland soil and filling within a floodplain. You're recommending table to a specified feature to allow staff to work out details of restoration. You already mentioned that in your previous summary.
Correct.
Okay. All right, motion to table, or do we need to continue this?
No, that didn't even, we don't need to, that's more informational. We're not reopening, so
All right.
we don't need a motion.
We don't need to do anything. Okay. All right, Roman numeral 6, new applications. We have IWPA 2020-21-17, Fairfield University, 1073 North Benson Road, Assessor's Map 143, Parcel 160, construct new residential townhouses in the vicinity of Lynch Road within a regulated area. Staff has said that they believe this is non-significant. Staff recommends tabling pending legal notice and departmental review. We have a motion to table.
Motion.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? All right. All right, moving on to the public hearing portion of the evening, Roman numeral 7. All right, and I'll gavel this in. This is continued from May 5th, 2021, correct?
Yeah.
This is IWPA 2020-21-13. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35 public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends on June 11th, 2021. The governor's orders allow the potential continuation date to September 9th, 2021. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant, so a further public hearing continuation to November 13th, 2021 is possible. If the hearing is completed, the decision shall be made within 35 days at the close of the hearing. The potential continuation date is July 7th, 2021. And this is IWPA, oh, I've already said all that. It's 1143 Saskell Hill Road, Assessor's Map 239, Parcel 7, 7-lot subdivision within a regulated area. Gary, did you listen to the last hearing on this? You did?
Oh, you're unmuted, or you're muted. Can you just state that?
Caught up on that. I wasn't here with the first one.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay, you are. Okay. All right, so you'll vote on this.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm sorry, Attorney Russo. How are you?
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Good evening. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, offices at 10 Saskell Hill Road in Fairfield, here on behalf of the applicant for the property 1143 Saskell Hill Road. I know we have talked about this property a few times and that you're familiar that this is a proposed 7-lot subdivision that we're coming before you with. That this parcel, it's a 20-acre parcel, has a rather, sorry about that, a rather small area of wetlands. I can actually, here, let me just pull up plan here. Second. And so in connection with this application, we're with regards to the regulated area, we're really not proposing much within the regulated area as far as it's actually lessening development because we are proposing to remove a number of impervious structures that are currently within the regulated area. There is a access driveway that leads down to the beach house that we're proposing to remove, some pool equipment, a propane tank, and all those things we're proposing to remove. There were some comments that we received for the last hearing, and I have Mike Paterla is here with Huntington Company, who addressed some of those comments, and then Bill Kenney as well, who prepared a plan that I will have him speak on as well. So Mike, is Mike there? I think he's. Mike, are you there? Are you able to speak on to what we did based on the comments from the town? I don't know. He might not be there. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Here he is.
Okay, so I'll let Mike just explain what we did there. think you're on mute, Mike. You gotta unmute yourself.
As Tony Russo says, we had a punch list from the town, and in my opinion, our revised date that appears on our plan took care of the revisions that were requested. We sent them into engineering and to your commission, and hopefully your staff will agree.
Yeah, just to highlight a couple of those things, we did. I know a couple of the bigger items were soil testing. We did the soil testing. It's now noted on the plans, and those results were fine. The other item from Laura Pooley was she was looking for for us to add drainage bioswales along the side of the proposed road. Which we did. So there's going to be bioswales along the length of the proposed road that will access the 5 lots that are off of that don't have direct access onto Sasko Hill Road. So those were really the main comments from her. And then Bill Kenney also produced a pit plan. So Bill, if you're there, do you want to just explain what you did?
Sure. Good evening, Bill Kenney. I am a professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect, and I've been actually involved with this property for over 10 years, and it's quite an interesting story with regard to the area that I'm going to review with you now. The northwest corner of the property. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay, great, thanks. Does everyone see our drawing that we prepared? Yep, okay. So we were involved with this property back in starting, I think, at 2006. So it's been about 15 years. And previous property owner, or actually related to the previous, to the current owner. And it had to do with, this is the northwest corner of the property. Sasko Hill Road is to the north. Sasko Beach is down off the page in the bottom left-hand corner of the page. And actually there's a map up in the top right-hand corner of our drawing that shows the entire property, which is triangular in shape. And the area we're focusing on is the northwest corner. North is to the left of the page. And this area along the shoreline includes a protected area of the property where there was an agreement with a previous owner with the Aspetuck Land Trust to preserve this area for a number of reasons, and Chris can get into some of the details on that, but it includes views of Long Island Sound, it includes habitat, it includes certain improvements like an existing building, and on the right hand side of my drawing there that's right on the water. But back in 2006, 2008, there was a desire to repair a broken seawall and put in a large boulder revetment to protect the shoreline there from erosion. And as part of that, we did a habitat enhancement plan for the area that's shown in light green, where we proposed a plan to remove invasive plants and to improve a coastal meadow area. I'll just show a few photos. This was a view looking probably up around from the tennis court area. This is back in 2006, looking west to the sound beyond. This plant, almost 90% or more of what you see right here is porcelain berry. It's a very aggressive vine, invasive vine, and just smothers anything in its path over time. And so this area had been heavily, let's see if I can, oh, there's, this is a close-up of the porcelain berry. this was a view looking south along the seawall that existed, and there was quite a few cracks in the wall and a number of areas where the wall had actually failed. So the at that time it was to remove that wall and put in a boulder revetment, which is what you see here. This is a view looking north from this past spring. You have Sasko Beach in the distance on the left-hand side of the picture. The conservation area is to your right. I thought I had more photos of the conservation area, but I don't. But you could see there's a lot of grasses here versus a lot of the vines that were present back in 2006, 2008. The level of maintenance since that time, there's some invasive vegetation that has made its way back in, particularly Phragmites, common reed, and porcelain berry is starting to make its way back in. So the drawing that we submitted to you is primarily a plan to continue to control the invasive plants in this area, as well as remove some improvements within your regulated area. Let me point out that the only inland wetland on the property is this area right here, which falls entirely within that protected area. There's a 144-foot wide regulated upland review area that extends from that, and that's this line here. So most of the regulated review area falls within the protected area or into Long Island Sound. There's a narrow portion of the regulated review area that extends beyond the protected area, and that's east of the protected area. And today there exists an asphalt driveway that extends down through here all the way down to this building. And the proposal is to remove that driveway starting at about just east of this existing residence and heading all the way south several hundreds of feet down to this other building, remove all that pavement that is relatively close to the sound. And then within the protected area, where a portion of that we're going to convert to meadow. And outside the protected area, we are proposing to keep that as lawn or some other ornamental planting. Also, in addition to removing the driveway, the proposal includes removing some pool equipment and a propane tank, and both of those features are within, surprisingly, they're within the protected area as well as your regulated upland review area, and they're generally in this area right here. So that will be removed. And we've included specifications for controlling the invasive plants. We have a narrative with regard to that, and there also were bird nesting boxes that were installed 10 to 15 years ago, and we've included specifications to either replace those or maintain those, depending on their condition of each one of those. So I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, so this is a lot of work that we didn't have as part of our original application, and I don't see anything from staff on this as far as their review. I know we got it last week, about a week ago. Can staff speak to that, or it's hard to see some of the notes down here, but I do know that there's
yeah,
herbicide.
The staff had the notes.
So Jen,
Where?
So we had originally drafted our draft conditions for approval based on the information that we had prior to May 25th. This new information came in, and obviously we posted that draft approval accordingly. This information came in on May. The new information related to the restoration activities centered around the wetland and the upland review area came in on May 26th. So Megan and I have had an opportunity to review the information that was just presented by Mr. Kenney. Our recommendation is we'd like to discuss some of the recommendation measures and get some more clarification, but I that could be done after this meeting. It's more about the methodologies to be used for the treatment of the Phragmites as well as the porcelain berry. So that being said, we're comfortable with the mitigation plan or the restoration plan associated with this, but there are some tweaks that, based on some of our experience, we would like to see implemented as part of that plan. So if that answers that question, the other thing I have, or the other request that we had asked the applicant to provide, and I didn't see it in the file in the May 26th documentation, but Mr. Kenney may be able to shed some light on that this evening, was besides verification of the existing wetland on the site, we'd asked for an impact analysis of this proposed subdivision on that particular inland wetland. We don't have anything formally in writing here, but I believe Mr. Kenney, from his 15 years of being on site, could probably describe what potential impacts or adverse impacts or lack thereof would occur to this wetland based on the proposed subdivision, including the proposed entrance road or access road to the site.
Sure.
And the potential changes to the hydrologic regime to the wetland.
I'd be pleased to answer that, or would you like to take more questions and then we could address questions at the end, or how would you like to proceed?
Well, does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, I do. Just in the notes on the map, it says year 2 and 3. I'm not looking at it right now, but it says year 2 and 3. Is the invasive species planned only for 3 years, or is it expected to last longer? Because there's a note in there that also says that it will be reviewed on an annual basis. So I just wasn't certain, because it seemed like there was a plan and it was, lack of a better word, maybe abandoned or not followed through on.
We do have under maintenance, long-term maintenance, item E7, the last note, which once per year under the direction of a qualified wetland scientist or ecologist, control invasive species as needed to ensure the habitat quality of the meadow. And I'll mention this management. These specifications are substantially the same as those approved by the agency in 2007. We revised them really just because most of the work had already been done. And now it's more
as part of the revetment. Is that what it was?
It was, yes, the revetment was installed, but then all of this meadow area, there was a substantial effort went in to remove the porcelain berry and some Phragmites. And if you'll notice, at the time, your agency, there are demarcation boulders that were requested at the time by the agency to be installed here, which are probably only about halfway out to your regulated review area, maybe 80 feet out. And that at that time, it was, I don't know how they picked that distance, but it was determined that was a distance where you felt you needed to lay a marker down that activities inside of those boulders were more important to you than the activities outside of those boulders. And really the big difference between this plan and the plan that was approved at that time is that this plan involves removing the from in your regulated area. It involves removing of the driveway, removing of the pool equipment, removing of the propane tank. But otherwise, the habitat enhancement work is substantially the same, but of a much lesser degree, because now we're really just doing maintenance. We're not replacing the whole revetment and ripping out a wall, putting in a revetment. and so forth.
Yeah, and Bill, if I could just step in, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, what is in the light green here is basically all existing, and this came from the previous approval. So what we're proposing to do within the regulated area, I mean, I don't know if I've ever had an application where we've proposed to do less, because all we're doing is removing these items: the pool equipment, the propane tank, and the pavement, and we're reseeding those areas. And then slightly outside of the regulated area, we are expanding the coastal meadow even further. And that line, so this goes into the area that's part of the conservation restriction with Aspetuck. And we're working with Aspetuck, and you can see there's a note there that says proposed limit of lawn. So we're further reducing any area that we have for lawn. Essentially, the lawn that's in the conservation restriction area is just going to be in front of this beach house. You know, so that property owner can still get down to it. So we're proposing very minimal activity within the regulated area from what's there now. And we're picking up a maintenance plan. And, you know, one of the issues with this property, it's one of the most unique properties in Fairfield. And it's on the water, and it's a 20-acre property, a single 20-acre property. And the issue is what it's run into, which is that it was owned by somebody who passed away, and now it's been in their estate, and it's extremely difficult to maintain such a large piece of property and to keep invasives at bay. And if you've driven by the property, you can see that it has suffered because of that. The beauty of this subdivision is it's breaking this property up into much more manageable sizes. And for those property owners to split, essentially, maintaining this whole 20-acre area and the conservation restriction. And so you just won't have, hopefully you won't have this issue in the future with this property, and that it'll be able to be maintained, and you know, invasives kept at bay. So, you know, you don't have a plan like this one that was originally approved, and then it just ends up going by the wayside. The other thing too I'd like to point out is, so as a part of this application for the subdivision application, we proposed open space, and the Planning and Zoning Commission had recommended accepting that open space. And part of that plan would be that the area that is designated as open space would be transferred to an association of property owners. And they would be responsible for maintaining the open space. And part of that would be, you know, maintaining most of this regulated area. And again, the nice thing about that is, if the owner of lot 6, which is that lot that you see there that has the tennis court currently on it, has probably, you know, one of the bigger chunks of the regulated area. If the same thing that's happened to this property now happened to that future owner of lot 6, and it goes into an estate and somebody doesn't maintain it, well, the association of property owners is going to be responsible. So that won't matter, because they will still be responsible for this area. So you have a lot more people responsible for the maintenance of this area, which I think, you know, is an obvious improvement going forward. So, you know, we really think, you know, and we want to move forward on this subdivision, because we think this is a good plan to address this area once and for all, and keep it as you know, we're intending to keep it under this plan. Hopefully that makes sense.
So basically, you're going to be forming an HOA on the subdivision?
Correct. So yeah, there'll be an HOA. They'll be responsible for the road, that comes in because we're proposing it to be a private street, but then they'll also be responsible for the area that we're designating as open space altogether. And so, which I think is, you know, a lot better split between seven different property owners all have the responsibility to this area rather than just one, which is the current situation. So I think it's a tremendous improvement from the current conditions.
Does your client agree with all the conditions?
Yes, I saw regarding a site monitor. We have no issue with that. Would agree to that as a condition, and obviously agree to the long-term maintenance that Bill has on his plan to control invasives, and as your staff was saying. If they have a different method that they would like to use for that, we'd be happy to accept this as a condition of approval. This project has been a big effort, and we are hoping to move forward in full cooperation with the town to protect this area. It's a special area. Bill told me it's one of the only coastal meadows, natural coastal meadows that Fairfield has on its shoreline. And so, we're really looking to move this property forward and protect this area.
What happens to the arrangement you have with the Aspetuck Land Trust when the ownership of this space gets transferred to the HOA?
Right. So these lots will still be subject to the conservation restriction. And so they will still be answerable to Aspetuck and to what the conservation restriction says. On top of that, we're boosting some of the restrictions in the we're boosting some of the restrictions in the conservation restriction with Aspetuck. It includes things like extending this coastal meadow and lessening the area that there's lawn. But there's other things that we're negotiating. Actually, we're meeting with Aspetuck tomorrow to discuss it. But the other nice thing too, again, about the open space that P&Z has recommended is if we violated something in the restriction, not outside the regulated area, but say on the southern portion of the property where there's a restriction and we're far away from the wetlands there, but the restriction's there. If we did something to violate that restriction, only Aspetuck could take an action against us with regard to that, or any future property owner. I mean, 20 years down the line, whatever property owner that is, Aspetuck would be the only entity that could take an action. With the open space, at least within this open space area, and what we propose is essentially almost the entire coastline, except for this break with the beach house. If that subdivision application's approved and the town accepts that open space, then if something happened in that restriction area, so on like this southern side that was way outside the regulated area, the town could take an action against that property owner. And that's going to be in perpetuity. So, it could be long down the road, decades from now, when none of us are doing this anymore. If something were to happen, the town that would then have the ability to come in and enforce. If somebody did something that was, because the open space restrictions are even more restrictive than the conservation restriction with Aspetuck. So that's one of the nice benefits of the open space.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's a little confusing to me because some of it is privately owned by the landowner and some of it is not. And then you have the relationship with the Aspetuck Land Trust, but it's open space. I'm just trying to get a handle on who's accountable to who and what kind of recourse there is and who's.
Well, I mean, it's basically the same as any normal application in that the property owners, I mean, you govern the regulated area. And so anything that happens in the regulated area, that's under your purview. And any private property owner would have to come back to you if they did anything within the regulated area. Conservation restriction, they're answerable to the Aspetuck. Aspetuck is the owner of that restriction, or is the holder. It gets to the benefit of Aspetuck. So, and every property owner that has a portion of the conservation restriction in their property, which is 5 of the lots, would have to answer to Aspetuck if anything was done outside the restriction. The open space area, which is along the coastline, that particular area, the property owners would be answerable to both the town and Aspetuck. So there's layers and layers of restrictions for both the private property owners, but then also the HOA. So, I mean, you can't cover this property more. I mean, I don't think there's layers upon layers here to make sure that this area remains protected. And for the immediate application, it's really, it's funny because there's all that involved, but for the immediate application, the only thing we're really asking is for permission to remove impervious structures and pavement, reseed them, and then expand the coastal meadow and adapt the same maintenance plan that we had previously been approved for. I understand it's a big property. It's a 7-lot subdivision, so there seems to be a lot that's going on. But really, in just the specificity of this application, that's really all that's going on in the regulated area.
Anyone else want to ask a question? I had another one. The operation and maintenance plan for, the long-term management plan for the existing conservation easement with Aspetuck. That's a condition to our approval. But as far as what's actually in that plan, we don't get to see that plan and say whether we like it or not, or do we? I mean, what kind of discussions are we involved in?
Aspetuck's the one that controls it. So Aspetuck's really the only one that can say anything with it, and that we could possibly amend it to. Which again, I don't want to keep complicating things, but that's another beauty of the open spaces is if the P&Z does accept that open space, is it doesn't matter what happens to Aspetuck for that specific area. Because if Aspetuck just disappeared and let go of that restriction, the town would still have its control. So over the open space. So it would protect it forever. Plus on top of the fact that obviously the regulated area is governed by you as well. So that's one of the benefits of it. But as far as the language with a restriction, the only party that can change that in concert with the property owner is Aspetuck.
Right.
And all we're proposing is to beef up that restriction.
And I just asked staff another question about the habitat enhancement and management plan that we got last Wednesday. Should that be listed as a condition or an approval of all the notes on that plan as well, or?
Yeah, it should be.
How's that?
And so I have a couple of questions for Mr. Kenney. I guess the first one is going back to my original question. For the record, we need a statement related to potential impacts or an impact analysis to the wetlands. So let's have Mr. Kenney address that now.
Sure. Based on the proposed improvements, the habitat enhancement improvements, control of invasive species, plant species, both in and around the wetland, as well as the removal of the paved driveway, pool equipment, and propane tank within the regulated review area. And then also beyond that, with this subdivision, based on the proposed stormwater management plan for both the during construction, where there'll be soil erosion sediment control measures in place and monitored and maintained during construction. And then after construction, there will be in place stormwater management structures to capture and detain and treat stormwater runoff from the proposed development. With all those protections in place and mitigation activities, it is my professional opinion that the project will not adversely affect the inland wetland that's on the property.
So I have question number, thank you, Mr. Kenney. Question number 2 relates to the invasive species restoration plan. Bill or Mr. Kenney, can you confirm, obviously there's monitoring and management for 3 years. Is there any actual annual reporting proposed to demonstrate to the commission the success of the actual management plan?
No, there is no reporting included in the specifications at this time.
Okay. So for
Can I just add to that we would be happy to accept that as a condition of approval, though, if you want that. We'd definitely be willing to accept that.
Yeah. So this is staff again. That would be a recommendation as if this public hearing is closed this evening and moves into discussion, that we add a condition, a second condition. Obviously, the first one is implementation of the actual restoration plan that's been submitted. Second one would be that we add a note to the restoration plan that indicates that annual monitoring of reports shall be annual monitoring reports of the invasive species and restoration plan shall be prepared and submitted to the Conservation Department, detailing the progress of the invasive vegetation management and success of the restoration for a period of 3 years post-restoration period. Reports shall be submitted no later than November 15th of that given monitoring year.
Thank you.
And you're okay with that, Attorney Russo?
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions, anyone, for anyone? Is that, no one else needs to speak, Attorney Russo? You're all set?
No, yeah, we would just respectfully request if the commission could move forward on this, we would really appreciate it. I know, and hopefully I was able to explain it. It's certainly difficult to follow all the different things, but and if anybody has any further questions on it, I'm happy to try to explain further. But I do feel that you know, when it boils down to what we're doing in the regulated area, it's very minimal. I really haven't had an application where all I'm asking to do is take stuff out of it and to, you know, get rid of all the impervious, reseed, expand the coastal meadow, and that's really what this particular application boils down to. Even though I know there's a larger development application surrounding it. But happy to answer any other questions. Thank you for your time, and appreciate your patience and really trying to understand the project.
Is there anyone from the
Considering
public,
the public-
Sarah, that was on there?
It looks like there is one person from the public. I'm not sure what they are here for, but if someone wants to speak, they can state their name and address and ask any questions that they have.
I just have one question, it's Charlie. Considering this is a public hearing, we do not have a staff recommendation at all yet.
There was a staff recommendation in there.
There's a staff recommendation dated May 25th.
25th, okay, but nothing.
It's just that we got the habitat management plan after this. That was the additional.
Yeah, that came like the day the agenda was going out, so we just included it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
Luke's
Luke.
trying to.
Are you muted?
He's muted.
Luke, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry about that. Matt, didn't you also just add 2 new conditions?
Yeah, so again, based on the submission of the restoration plan, we would amend our May 25th draft approval of conditions based on those 2 recommendations that I stated earlier
Okay.
in this discussion.
Right. So I just
So
wanted
it's condition number
clear.
6 and 7, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So the staff's recommendation is approval with all of those conditions, and Attorney Russo just said he would agree. You agree, I think, to that? That's okay?
Yes, Commissioner. We would agree to the original approval or the original recommendation from staff for approval, plus the 2 conditions that were stated tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
As stated by Matt, I wouldn't be able to repeat all of that, but I know one of them was to add the habitat enhancement management plan dated May 26, 2021, or approval thereof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are we ready to close the public hearing?
So
I saw this.
Sorry.
So so are we sure that there's no public that is here for the prior?
You can ask again.
Yeah, I would ask again.
Yeah.
Just be clear.
If anyone from the public wishes to speak now, you can state your name and ask your questions.
Sarah, ask it 3 times, please. Just to be
Is
clear.
there anyone from the public who would like to speak now?
Like a wedding.
Anyone from the public that wants to speak?
Takes a while to unmute sometimes.
Yeah. If you're having trouble, you can write your name in chat. All right.
Come on.
Was that somebody?
I don't. Did someone say something?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, it sounds like we can close the public hearing. Okay. Do I need a motion or can I just do it? I'm sorry, I can't recall.
You need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second?
Yeah. Well, I'll make the motion to approve with the conditions as stated previously and the 2.
Wait, this was just closing the public hearing, and then you can make a motion.
Oh, then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
And I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, we are now out of public hearing and now need a motion on the table to start discussion on this IWPA.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions as previously stated and 2 additional ones that were stated by Matt tonight.
Is there a second? Brian McCann. Discussion? Does anyone have anything they want to discuss, concerns, anything?
I'll just say that I'm not confident that in year 4, 5, 6, and in the future, that the invasive species and other maintenance will be done when it's in the hands of the HOA.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I would think
I'm
that's probably
much more
right.
comfortable. What'd you say, Charlie?
No, I was just thinking, I think the plan was, the previous plan wasn't really held to at one point, but it does make more sense that if an HOA is involved, they probably would be more likely to take care of it. But it seems the property's gone through a couple of hands in the state, so I mean that's almost a good reason enough for plan to be sort of not held to. But I think an HOA would be a better partner than our end in the state.
All right, well, I'm much more comfortable that that management plan is going to be a condition, the approval of it. Yeah, because that is a lot. That's more work than we contemplated in the beginning of this process. So, anyone else? Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of Jerry's motion? Aye. Opposed? Just one, right, Dabney? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Russo. So, we have another public hearing. IWPA 2020-21-14. Decision may be made if the hearing is completed or the hearing may be continued. The original 35-day public hearing timeframe to complete the hearing ends on July 7th, 2021. The governor's order allows us to go to October 5th, 2021. A 65-day time extension may be provided by the applicant. So a further public hearing continuation to December 9th, 2021 is possible. If the hearing is completed, the decision shall be made within 35 days of the close of the hearing. A potential continuation date is July 7th, 2021. And this is IWPA 2020-21-14, Pequot Realty LLC, 250 Pequot Avenue, Assessor's Map 241, Parcel 175A, wetland enhancement within a regulated area. And this is, who do we have for the applicant?
I'm back. Chris Russo, Russo Rizzion LLC, offices at 10 Sasko Hill Road, Fairfield, on behalf of the property owner for 250 Pequot Avenue. I'm actually just going to, this is a commercial property, it's we're looking to address this issue, the current conditions of the water course, which Bill will describe is causing a flooding issue on the lower floor of the building. We actually have flood doors that we put in to block it when we have bad rainstorms. So there's really not much for me to say. I'll turn it over to Bill. But that's kind of the genesis of this application. So, Bill.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening, Bill Kenney, professional wetland scientist, soil scientist, and landscape architect with offices in Fairfield. This is in some ways similar to the last project. It's another property that we've been involved with for a number of years, going back to at least another 10 years or so. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen again. And this is the drawing that we submitted as part of our the application for the permit. It has to do with, we've called it a stream and floodplain wetland enhancement plan. The property is located in Southport. It's near the village of Southport. You have Old Post Road, you have I-95 here, and this is Old Post Road, the 4 or 5-way intersection right in the middle of Southport. This is just north of that. And an old spur, the railroad runs right behind the property. You can see this plan here shows the entire property with Pequot Avenue on the, I think that's to the east, southeast of the property. And there is a small stream that runs through the property, and I'm sure, I haven't looked at historic photos, but it runs from the right-hand side to the left, and it's piped under the parking lot on the property to the right. And I'm sure before this property was developed more than 100 years ago, it used to be part of an old factory area. But I'm sure the stream used to come probably right through the parking lot, right through the building. You could see where it comes out from underneath the parking lot on the right-hand side. As soon as it comes out, it gets directed towards the edge of the property, and then it flows to the left and down and out of the property. Back on the left-hand side of the property, we did some stream restoration, wetland restoration in that area. I have to get I'm getting my dates confused here, but that was in 2011. In this area here, there had been a building in this area, and the building and some improvements. There was an old access drive that spanned the brook here. There was just a small pipe under that access drive, and the building was right up against the stream. And the property owner removed the building and the access drive and restored wetland areas and the stream on this left-hand side or southern part of the property. I can show you some photos from that time. That's current day. This was, there we go. This is a photo looking north. You can see the building to the north where the stream is below that parking lot where you see the cars in the distance, comes out of a pipe and it runs down the left-hand side here. And all that you can, there had been a fence here. This white fence is now gone, but this picture is from 2011. The building had just been removed. It's in this area of disturbance. The small stream is right here. What was proposed was to remove the fill and create a narrow wetland area adjacent to the stream. And this is what happened. The fill was removed, the wetland was created, the stream runs through on this left-hand side. This was shortly after the planting. And then this is further along when the planting had filled out quite a bit. So fast forward 10 years and we're back now to deal with the other length of this small stream that has been manipulated over many years. And the proposal is to remove fill again and expand the floodplain wetland. It's a very small wetland area, but create more wetland. Today, the existing wetland line is this thick red line. And as you get upstream or to the north, the wetland pretty much is right on the edge of the stream. So the idea is to remove debris and fill from the stream and from the area adjacent to the stream to expand the wetland, expand the floodplain, and provide more area for flood storm water to flow and stay within this wetland area and the stream area and not come out into the parking lot and enter into the building. I think I have some photos of that, current conditions. So this is a view, again, looking north. The stream is below this parking lot here. It exits out of the parking lot here, makes a hard left, and then comes down here. There's fill here. That's what's proposed primarily to be removed. A lot of invasive vegetation is also here, and we're proposing to remove that as well. This is a view from in the stream area itself. You can see there's a lot of debris that has piled up in the stream every so many feet, every couple dozen feet or so. Leaves and branches are piled up, and when this backs up like this, the water has trouble getting through the stream and it ends up in the parking lot. And then this is a view looking the other way. You can see the building, this level of the building is very close to the stream level. So the water comes down, the parking lot ends up going through these doors unless flood barriers are put across the doors before a storm. So the idea is to try to keep the water in the stream, improve the wetland habitat at the same time, remove invasive plants, expand the wetland, improve the flood carrying capacity of the wetland. This is a view upstream where the water comes into the property. The property line is this wall on the right, and that parking lot where the stream is piped under the parking lot is to the right. So it comes out of this pipe, hits the wall on the left, heads to the back of the photo, and then goes left to the area of proposed improvements. So we have a plan view here. Also, there's a section view. This drew a section line here, and the section is a view from the right to the left. So this black dash line is roughly the existing level of the land. So you have a low mound here, then you have the stream with debris in it, and then the slope rises up to the property line on the right. And the proposal is to remove the fill that's in this area and the invasive plants, create a little floodplain, open up the stream and better define the stream channel, put a curb along the parking lot, and another row of boulders here to help protect and armor this floodplain wetland. That is it. We also included some specifications in this on this plan similar to the last plan that include how to control our proposal for controlling the invasive plants. It includes sequencing for how to do this work, and that's pretty much it. Be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions,
Water
anyone, from
flow
Mr.
is-
Kenney?
Yeah, I had a question. How have the previous enhancements been holding up? It's been 10 years, you said?
Yes. Overall, it's held up pretty well. There are some invasive plants that need to be removed from there as well, and we're pleased to do that as well. But it was a similar plan with having boulders along the edge to help protect the improvements on this side by putting boulders here, and then better defining the wetland area. So the boulders have held up, and the wetland environment is still there that was created. And the only issue would be, I think at this point, is the invasive vegetation, which isn't that in that terrible of a situation at the moment.
Does the stream flow all year round?
Pretty much. I think it's relatively small, but I do believe it flows. It may dry up in mid to late August or early September, but I'm pretty sure it flows most of the year. It's close to being tidally influenced, but it's not. It's very close. It's only a foot or two above the tidal influence. just beyond the site, it ends up being piped again through Southport Village under more buildings and pavement for several hundred feet. And I think it isn't exposed again until you get to the Southport Congregational Church.
That's right.
The parking lot on the other side of across the street from the church.
Yep.
I'm curious, is that part of there's a mill run behind Pequot Library. Does that connect with that stream?
No. I'm pretty sure that's a different stream. There's
Okay.
like
Yeah.
5 streams that come into the village.
Did staff have anything to say? Excuse me.
Sure. I think Mr. Kenney's been very gracious to call this a stream restoration project and floodplain restoration. It's, it's kind of in between a stream and a drainage ditch. Obviously, it sounds as though it has perennial flow or could be intermittent during really dry periods. We see this as a significant improvement over what is currently out there today. We did have some questions for updating the site plan as part of a conditions of approval. And Bill, maybe Mr. Kenney may be able to answer some of those this evening. It's not clear in terms of what the total length of restoration is proposed here. We made some estimates based on scaling off the plan because there is some notes related to the southern segment, which was previously completed, about relocating or reestablishing some boulders. So maybe some clarification on what activities are actually occurring in there, because tonight it sounded more as though it might just be some invasive species management. And then the northern segment of the channel itself, we had guesstimated, or had not guesstimated, but we had measured off about 160 feet of restoration in that, give or take. Just for the record, and so that the commission's clear in terms of what the actual length of restoration is proposed by this project, I think is important. Secondly, if Mr. Kenney could shed some light on the size of the boulders that are required for this project. It's not clear based on the cross section that is on the plan what the intention of the size of boulders. Obviously, looking at some of the photos that we've seen tonight, it looks like these boulders will be somewhere probably between 24 to maybe 30-inch diameter. I could be wrong, so that's why we'd like to have some clarification from Mr. Kenney on that as well. Also, I think in order to effectively implement this plan, and I assume that Mr. Kenney was involved with the southern segment, we felt as though this would require not just an environmental monitor to oversee this work, but an actual professional wetland scientist to actually implement it correctly for both the short-term construction operation and management, but also long-term. And then obviously, one of the things that staff would recommend on this as well is that because there's kind of 2 components here, there's the actual restoration of the channel, creation of a floodplain, but also management of invasive species. We would recommend that this particular restoration project be monitored for a period of 3 years, and annual reports be submitted to the commission demonstrating compliance with the approved plans, but also identifying if any remedial measures are required to comply with the intended restoration efforts. So that is staff report for this particular application.
So you needed Mr. Kenney to give you a little bit of a response, correct?
A couple clarifying points from Mr. Kenney.
Sure. The exact length, I don't have a drawing to scale in front of me right now, but we can certainly provide that for the record.
Okay.
But more importantly, I think You brought up a point that I forgot to mention. We are proposing these enhancement activities the full length of the stream on the property. On the southern end where the work occurred before, we are proposing, I'd forgotten about this, to just clean up the channel in that area as well, remove some debris and put some stone in to help control where that channel is located there. But the majority of the work will occur from about the northern face of the building to the northern property line. And we can certainly provide you with the numbers for that, and with a scale drawing, someone could measure that as well. I happen to just print out a reduced size for the meeting this evening, so that's all I have in front of me, and it's not to scale. The boulders, we would propose to use boulders of similar size to what were installed with the previous work, and the sizes that you mentioned are, I think that's about on target, and I don't have that exact measurement, but it would be of similar size to those, and we could provide you with that. Will you please update the drawing and provide you with that information, as well as the other information that you requested in the recommendations for approval, with specific condition, under specific condition number 1. There's items A through I, and pleased to provide that. And not a problem to have myself or someone with similar expertise to monitor this during construction and after construction. Which is, we did do that with the first phase of work that was done 10 years ago.
And I do know this northern property boundary line runs 305 feet. So that gives you some sense of how long this stretch is.
Mm-hmm. So I had one follow-up question for Mr. Kenney. Do we know this? So on the plan, there's a existing catch basin that is called out for a protected silt sack. Is there any idea of where that actual catch basin discharges to?
Yes, actually. So it's a bit faint, but we show in a light blue the piping here, and it discharges.
Oh, so it does tie into there. Okay.
Yes, about 40 feet south of the catch basin.
Okay. Thank you.
Any members of the public, Sarah? Anyone there?
If there are any, okay, wasn't sure if I was muted. If there are any members of the public, just because I can't see everyone that's on here now. If anyone has any questions, you can ask them now. It actually doesn't look, now that I'm looking at the participant list, there's no one.
Just us. Okay.
Yep.
I would still, for purposes of completeness, I would ask 3 times.
If there are any members of the public that have any questions, they can ask them now. Please state your name. If there are any members of the public that wish to comment or ask questions on this project, they can state their name and speak now.
I have the chat open. I don't see anyone.
Yeah.
Commission members, do you have any other questions? Oh, Matt, did you still consider this to be a significant activity as it came in as an application?
No, actually, upon further review, we would be upon further review, but based on the information that's been provided in our site walk, we don't feel that this would be a significant activity at this time. However, given that it is a stream restoration floodplain project, we felt it required a public hearing.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready to close the public hearing? Do I have a motion?
Motion to close public hearing.
That was Brian. Is there a second? Jerry?
Jerry was the motion. I'll make the second.
She said Brian was, okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well,
She said Brian, so I went for the second.
all those in favor? Okay. We're out of the public hearing, so we need a motion to get into discussion on this IWPA. Dabney.
Yeah, I move to vote on this application in favor, to take the department's recommendation and to vote in favor of this application.
Second.
Discussion? No discussion? Okay. Do we want to vote? All those in favor of Dabney's motion to approve this IWPA, of course, I don't have the number in front of me, 2020-21-14? Opposed? None. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Russo and Mr. Kenney.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.
You too. Thanks, Matt. Okay, sorry, I'm here. Roman numeral 8, other. I'll just say that I do know the administration, if not everyone heard me, I do know the administration is trying to get us back in person. So we will, they're working on technology in the meeting rooms to make sure that they're functioning even better than they were before.
What's the plan on that?
You mean when?
Yeah.
They said something about it would probably have to meet virtually next month, but possibly the month after. I don't know. Sarah, there was nothing that you had heard on timing, right?
I haven't heard anything yet. I know the governor's orders expire at the end of the month. So that stops the need for virtual, but I think it's then down to what the administration wants to do with all the commissions.
They're trying to coordinate all the commissions, obviously, so that everybody's doing the same thing. Anyone else need anything they want to talk about? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Second? All right, all those in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.